First things first, thank you so much to User Guiding for having me, and thank you to everyone who's attending the webinar. I'd like to just quickly introduce myself. My name is Cairo Amani. I'm a customer success leader. I've been doing this for 6 years. I specifically work with small startup companies, helping them build strong connections with their customers. I'm the co-founder of Thrive Network, which is a organization for the women of customer success. It's event-based and founded about 2 years ago. So you can go to thrivemcs.com if you're interested in joining our Slack group or attending any of our virtual events. And then on top of all of that, I'm also a career coach and have been doing that for about 6 years. And I specifically work with folks in the tech space or folks who want to enter into the tech space. So please find me on LinkedIn, visit my website. I'd love to talk about customer success and would look forward to meeting any of you. So let's hop into it. Today, we're going to talk about the strategies of high-performing customer success managers. I thought I'd start with defining what a high-performing CSM is in the context of this presentation. So we're looking for someone who's absolutely stellar in their day-to-day, and this means that their daily duties are always pristine and not just done well. They represent the voice of the customer internally. So they're circling feedback, they're getting issues resolved, etc. They represent the voice of the company externally. So I'm talking about excellent trainings, understanding all the value adds, and they can relate them directly to their customer's use case. We're looking at folks who are alert and high energy. We have a very social job. It can be very draining, but high-performing CSMs don't get burnt out. We're also looking at folks who are making meaningful connections with customers and peers. So customer success not only touches clients, but also other departments. And the best CS professionals really know how to work across orgs to make things happen. And then last, but definitely not least, and doesn't really need any explanation, a high-performing CSM is hitting their goals and their metrics. So now that we have set a baseline, I narrowed my thoughts into 3 overarching strategies that we'll look at. So we'll look at active listening, we'll look at proactive learning, and we'll look at fearless doing. So let's do active listening first. So active listening is a term I'm sure we're all familiar with. I really think it's meant to stress that you can definitely hear something without understanding it. And because of that, you run the risk of being presented with a problem and having no solutions. Active listening, however, means that not only are you hearing it, you're comprehending it, and you're also able to use what you learned for action. And there are many ways active listening can look on a high-performing CSM. But this is some of them. So there'll be masters in meetings. So we're looking at things like asking the right questions, and not only to their customers, but internally to their peers and to leadership. I say that the key to asking the right questions is learning as much as you can up front on your own, because it allows you to enter the conversation at a higher level and get to the meat of an issue much faster. Being a master of meetings also means you're immaculate at note-taking. So our brains are human, they're prone to error. I've found that my peers who excel in their role are great at note-taking, whatever that means. So whether they have their own system or they're using an app, they're always looking for ways to record their meetings and make sure that they're getting as much information and data from them as possible. High-performing CSMs are also working with strategically organized goals. So I'm sure some of you have worked with SMART goals or you've done SWOT analyses. These tend to come up around strategic planning, both externally with customers and then also internally with the team. And there are many ways of getting organized around goals for the quarter and the year. But what's important is that a high-performing CSM is always thinking in terms of strategically organized goals. So another part of active listening would be a strong command of data and insights. Listening happens all the time, not just when we're in a meeting or face-to-face with clients. So high-performing CSMs listen to customer feedback, product engagement data, and industry and market trends and research. They're well-rounded and well-informed. So again, customer feedback, product engagement, market research. An active listener is also an expert on internal affairs. So active listening doesn't just happen with the customers, like I said, it happens with peers and leadership as well. High-performing CSMs are listening to anyone that they can learn from. So they may look like an expert on company goals and OKRs. They may also look like an expert on department priorities and challenges. And ideally, they're able to have an understanding of both. So to dive into proactive learning, proactive learning encompasses a set of skills and habits that I've noticed my high-performing peers always have, and I always try to emulate. I think the best CSMs are naturally curious, always asking, what would happen if? So what does proactive learning look like? It looks like going beyond basic product knowledge. These CSMs are learning the philosophies, they're chatting with the founders, they know more about the product than they need to know in order to interact with customers. So they're not just learning the basics to get by. They've also learned possibly about the product backend. And for some CSMs, that means being able to do like tier 1 tech support. And it may also look like mastering and understanding the product roadmap, even when it's not transparent and set across the company. So I've worked with folks who seek out that knowledge even when it's not readily available, which I think is very powerful in order to be really transparent with the customer around new developments in the product. Proactive learning also looks like mastering data and insights. So I think we're all pretty used to engagement data. How often is the customer interacting with our product and exactly how are they interacting with our product? But there's so much more to know, especially if you're curious. So high-performing CSMs seek to know as much as possible through the data available to them and are constantly asking for new data in order to understand engagement, but also happiness and satisfaction, and things like segments and breakdowns. A high-performing CSM is always curious about the customer, always eager to sit down and talk with someone who uses the product. Proactive learning also looks like peer learning. So high-performing CSMs know that leaders come at all levels. They're able to seek out advice and help from colleagues. They set up their own meetings to learn more, and they're constantly looking to make new connections and opportunities with the company. So peer learning might look like shadowing calls, especially when you're new, but also whenever there's a new client and there may be new use cases and just new things to learn. Peer learning looks like asking for advice, also when you're new, but also when you're not. Anyone that you respect may have a good opinion on something that you're stumped on. And I think that collaborating on projects is a great way to learn from the people that you work with. I work in a lot of flat organizations, so sometimes there isn't like specific leadership to go to, but there is, at least in small startups, there's this idea that the whole team needs to contribute at a very high level. So collaborating in those environments has always been really fruitful. But even when I've been in larger companies, being able to reach out to my peers and say, hey, I'm having issue with this customer, they're at risk, or even like collaborating with marketing and saying this customer is not at risk, they're actually fantastic, and I'd really love to get them more involved, in our social media or speaking to other customers and things like that. Collaboration is just a really great way to learn and is something that I think comes really naturally to our field. So let's hop into fearless doing, which is a phrase that I just use for myself, and it means moving forward confidently for the customer and their goals. I think fearless doing is the heart of proactivity, and we all know proactivity is our bread and butter as CSMs. Can we predict what the customer needs before they ask? At the end of the day, we can do all the listening and learning we want, but we'll never be high performing if we don't take action. The reason I use fearless here is because we have a hard job. We're dealing with multiple stakeholders, both internally and externally, and that can be intimidating and cause us to fumble. But being fearless means that we don't let any of that get to us, and we strive for the results we know that we can achieve. So a CSM who's a fearless doer is action-oriented. And what does that mean? It means going above and beyond for the customer and the company. It means marking quantifiable contributions. They've made sure to track their projects and can clearly state their wins. It means being unafraid of mistakes. High-performing CSMs know mistakes happen. They're experts at crisis management and problem solving. And so they clean up their messes and they come back stronger. Just a moment, my mouse is a little disconnected. So next in fearless doing is being courageous and outspoken. So voice of the customer. It takes a lot to speak up when something's wrong with the product or a service is not as strong as it could be. It also takes a lot of work for celebrations for the customers to happen to if the entire company is not on board. So a high-performing CSM focuses less on their own fear and more on the customer. They let the desire to make the customer happy propel them through the difficulties of their job. In turn, they become known as the voice of the customer and trusted to liaise in that relationship. A high-performing CSM is also the voice of their peers. So when working on a team, CSM should collaborate and should team up to make sure leadership hears them. High-performing CSMs show leadership by representing the concerns and ideas of their peers as well as the customer. And lastly, being courageous and outspoken means also being the voice of the company. So although we do work for the customer, we also work for the company, and it can be a challenging job to defend a product you love while admitting its faults. It can also be a rewarding job to represent a product you love in a positive and productive light. So high-performing CSMs excel in representing the company and product with strong vision and mission, regardless of whether they're approaching the more negative aspects of the experience or the more positive ones. Lastly, fearless doing means being outcome-driven. Again, you've heard this before. We're results-oriented and we're outcomes-driven. Outcomes-driven is key to high performance. CSMs work around goals, personal goals, customer goals, company goals. To perform well, you have to be obsessed with getting the results that you set out to get for the customer, for yourself, and everyone else. So again, we're looking at results for the customer and the company, and we're looking at results for personal growth. So I've got some bonus strategies. I do like when things come in threes, but I think there's so much to be said for high performance, and it's not all encompassed in this presentation. I just had the amazing opportunity to work with some incredible customer success professionals and really have picked up a lot of what they've been doing for my own success. One thing that high performing CSMs do is emulate leadership. They pay very close attention to good leaders, whether that person has a leadership title or not. And they start to do those things that the leaders are doing and replicate those moves that keep customers happy. These next two, I think, go hand in hand. When you research more about your industry and your field, you're going to be developing yourself as a professional. And so that's just one really strong career development technique. But I would say that the best high performing CSMs care about their jobs and their growth. And that's why they work so hard. And this last one is something I put into every presentation that I do on customer success, which is about self-care. We have a very draining job at times. I think that any client-facing role just can take a lot out of you. And I think that being high performing means that you risk burnout often. So to be very blunt about it, take a fucking break when you need it. And that means in the day, throughout the day. And it also means vacation if you can, or staycation, considering the situation that we're in. It means treating yourself. It means rewarding yourself. It means taking care of your mental health and making sure that you create an environment where you can really be your best self for your customer and for the company. So that is it. I'm more than happy to take some questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I mean, I totally agree with you, by the way, Cairo, for the self-care part. Right now, I'm not working for a customer success team, but I know that how important it is, your mental health and also anything related to self-care, because most of the customer success teams are the face of the company. And it's so crucial for them to have a so strong mental health, and also it's so crucial for them to have get in touch with their self-care things. So thank you for that, also mentioning it. So you didn't share your email address or LinkedIn address. So for the ones that would like to get in touch with you, how they can reach out to you?
So I am on LinkedIn. I thought I had it. I might have it on the first slide, but of course.
Yeah, we can also share it on as a chat.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, please. I'm the only Cairo Amani probably on there, trying to make sure of that. So connect with me. I do like coffee with Cairo. So sometimes in the morning I'll do like Calendly links for folks who just want to chat about customer success. I love doing that.
Mm-hmm. We have one question for you. Sam is going to share that. Do you find people from various different companies and backgrounds are important, or should they be homegrown from within the company?
Uh, do I think that CSM should be hired outside or inside of the company? Is that the question?
Yeah, the question is like the importance of different company backgrounds, and also should they be homegrown within the company? I mean, are you going to hire from the in-house, or are you going to hire
Yes.
from the customer success people from the out of the company? Which one is more crucial in your case or in your opinion?
So I just did a presentation on this at the end of last year about hiring for CSMs. And I think that the most important thing to do is to keep it specific to your product and your company. So at another point, I worked in prop tech, real estate technology, and I know nothing about I know a lot about real estate now, but I knew nothing then, but I knew a lot about customer success. And I ended up hiring my first senior CSM from the real estate area. He had never done customer success before. He was one of the most high performing people on my team because he knew his stuff about real estate technology. I hired for a gap that I had. And I think that smart leadership is able to admit when they don't know something, and then you hire out for the thing that you don't know. And so I really think it's about figuring out what you need specifically for your company and your product. I will also say that I think customer success is a great gateway job into the tech world, and you don't have to have held the title previously to be really, really good at it. So I really challenge CS leaders to think outside the box when it comes to hiring for their team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also for the ones who start to work as a CS, for example, after a while they can start to work in sales department, marketing department as well, because they know the tool or software really well. So if they improve their skills on sales, for example, they can also work for sales departments, in my opinion. Yeah.
100%. And a lot of folks move into product management after customer success because they know the product inside and out. It's a great pathway to every department that it touches.
Mm-hmm, definitely. So we have another question. How much do you think you need to mirror your leadership strategies and techniques, and how much do you need to disrupt and explore new strategies to be successful?
Oh, I think you should always explore new strategies. I think we're lucky as customer success professionals because customer success is new. It just like popped up as a term in like the early 2000s. And so every year there's something new about customer success that someone just discovered, or there's a new thought leader out there. And so I think we should constantly be experimenting. I think we should constantly be challenging what customer
Mm-hmm.
success means. I think that we're watching it grow into a department that's more and more important to companies every year. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think we have to do our due diligence in trying out new strategies. But of course, there are things that are tried and true that I don't think will ever get replaced, like a QBR and EBR. Like we have to continue to feed that data. We have to continue to report. But the way that we give those, I mean, even the term EBR is new. We were calling it a QBR for super long, then EBR popped up. The way we give those presentations can constantly change, but the fact that we give those presentations should remain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree with you. And regarding to exploration part, I mean, do you have any resources to share with our attendees? I mean, the articles that you like, the books that you like, the podcasts that you listen. I mean, do you have any resources for our attendees to share, like a recommendation?
So I don't want to advertise other people's products, I guess, on this, but what I will say is that if you're looking to learn, the best place to go are usually like CRM blogs. I feel like there's big monsters like Gainsight that has like a great set of resources for folks. I think that I think that I think when you're thinking about our day to day, you want to look at the tech that we use and the strategies that we use and go to the leaders in those spaces to learn.
Yeah. Thank you, Cairo.